Okay, we're going to open the Board of Health meeting, June 12th, 2018. First on the agenda, under administrative matters of board member reports. Any reports?
Welcome.
Yeah. Hey,
Oh, yeah.
we just opened.
All right.
I'm the clerk, so I can, Gino didn't show up, so I'm going to sit in. So the new members, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, my name is Kevin Baker, and I'm happy to be a part of the Board of Health.
And I'm Louise Nicholas, also happy to be here.
Welcome. Did you have any board member reports?
I did not.
Second thing is the minutes. There are minutes attached in our packet from February 13th, except that there's only two of us here who could vote on them. So we should probably wait until Gino's here so that
Is he coming, or is he just?
we don't know what happened to him.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm late.
It's okay. So it's moved
Yeah. let's
that
just
we would
wait and-
postpone that. Yeah.
Okay.
Next thing is correspondence updates. Would this correspondence be under this?
Yeah, you can read that.
Okay.
That he brought in and we talked to Jim Garoffi about, and Jim asked them to get a letter, and then that was the letter that came in, but we asked for it to be sort of a more detailed letter. So, yeah, if you want to read it, and you can probably.
talking
give
the
everybody a
volunteer?
little bit of background and.
Okay. So, this is on 307 Harwood Avenue in Littleton. It's a farm on Harwood Avenue. And you've got a letter, it's the second page of this, from Lombardo Loam and Gravel, dated May 4, to the town of Littleton. Dear Mr. Garoffi, in regards to the above-mentioned address, also known as the Halloran Farm, it is our intention to store materials on site. Lombardo Loam and Gravel Company, Inc. will stockpile, process, and remove topsoil and other various landscape materials. And written in here, it says, finished compost to mix with soil. Explained to Mr. Lombardo issue we've had with compost in the past. He stated criteria would, material would be fully composted. Stated tailings from screening will be taken off-site. If you- Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me directly. Provides a phone number for Mark Lombardo. So I'm not quite sure on the note. So finished compost to mix with soil. Does that mean they're going to finish composting on site, or if they're going to bring in finished compost?
Well, that was what Jim asked for some more clarification
Yeah.
on. And so Jim drafted up that first letter that you just read in response
Okay.
to Lombardo's letter. And we had asked for them to respond to that in a more detailed way to present to the board for you guys to
Okay.
make the determination. We haven't received anything as of yet, but I just wanted to let you know what's in the pipeline and what's.
And so the background on this is there was an enforcement action by the Board of Health. There was there were a lot of complaints from the neighbors on the smell.
Butters,
Yeah. And the, Mr. Halloran didn't address the issues to the neighbors' satisfaction. So, that was a long and drawn-out thing, and we finally got the offending materials off the site.
And now we're going to put them right back.
Well,
Looks like it's just dirt.
so
And
Jim has drafted a letter to Mr. Halloran. This office has received a letter from Lombardo Loam and Gravel Company, Inc. regarding the storage of material at the above-mentioned property. The letter is in response to our conversation about this proposal and the need for more information regarding the proposed activities on the site. The Board of Health concerns about the proposed operation are provided below. The operation can't create dust, odor, or sound which would create a condition of air pollution as defined by 310 CMR 7 air pollution control regs. Activities such as mixing, screening, loading material need to be done in such a manner to comply with the air pollution regulations. Prior Board of Health approval is needed if the operation will be burning manure or other non-soil materials on site to mix with the soil. 2, only clean topsoil can be brought to the site, as there are a number of private wells still in use, including one on this site. So I think that's a key one. They can only bring topsoil. All material from the soil screening shall be used or disposed of properly, I think that's properly, On-site burial of wood waste is not allowed. 4, I'm not sure what other landscape materials Mr. Lombardo is referring to in his letter, but brush, leaves, grass clipping, stumps, and other wood waste are not allowed unless you can prove to the Board of Health that such materials can be handled properly in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. 5, you should check with other town departments if there are any regulatory requirements that may have such an operation. And I'll just add that, since I was here, I think I was here for more,
More than me.
yeah. On the last one, Mr. Halloran did not show that he was, followed the rules and regulations or the requests of the Board of Health. And on numerous occasions, he would come in and say he was going to do something by a certain date, and he wouldn't do it. So based on that history, even if they are saying there's compliance, I think we have to consider that when they're making their request, aside from what the response to this letter is.
Okay.
Right, it would be nice to see an end date. Also, this odor thing is all relative, because remember when Vinnie from Boston Bark Malt said compost shouldn't smell, but
Yeah.
the neighbors were smelling something?
Yeah.
So I think odor is subjective to the person, and then how long they're gonna be doing it for. Is it gonna be forever? And when they're gonna be handling the dirt, it should be during the day, not on weekends when the neighbors are out, stuff like that.
Well, I think there's two things. One, is there any way, just based on somebody's previous behavior, if we can not grant the
I
application?
think maybe just more stricter.
And the second one is, if we're going to do it, I think we have to put in that we're going to go into enforcement immediately, that there'll be an inspection schedule, and the minute that it goes,
Mhm.
that they don't meet it, there's no warning, it just goes right to
Yep.
enforcement.
If you want to give them a chance, can you give them like, say, 3 months type
Well,
of thing? or-
The last time, they never did what they said they were going to do,
Yeah.
until we went into enforcement,
And what about the
which
bu-
involves fines.
What about the abutters too? I mean, do they
Yeah, then we'd
know
have to
about
hear
this?
from the butters,
Yeah.
so they'd have to
'Cause you
notify
know they're not
butters
gonna
first.
want, they're not gonna be
Yeah.
game for this, they're gonna fight that, so.
So this actually isn't on the agenda right now,
Just a correspondence.
so we would need to get it on the agenda too if we were going to talk about it. Does anybody have any comments on the letter that Jim Gareffi has drafted here? This is all, I think what he did was just give us the pertinent regulations and ask for responses on them.
No, and like you said, butters, a time limit, how long is it gonna stay there for? Enforcement of fines when he breaks some, when,
So in the letter, would we want to alert him that we're going to go right into enforcement action?
well,
Because this is
I
just
guess enforcement action if he violates something, yeah. But they'd have to be inspected too, right? Needs to be monthly inspection, or who does that?
And it's an allowed use in that district, so until he does something that violates the use, there's no enforcement.
Well, yeah, that's where I'm wondering if there's any way to
I
kind of
think what
bypass that
Jim was
based on
trying to
previous
do was
behavior.
like prevent it from being a composting situation again. I think if it's loam is different than compost. So I think Jim, in sending that letter, was trying to clarify what the actual use was gonna be. And if it's just loam, it's an allowed use in that area, so they need to control the dust, they need to control the noise, they need to comply with all the, zoning bylaws, but there's really no enforcement that can be taken until they break the rules.
So can we get like a plan for them about how they're going to control the dust and odor, or if it's going to be already
Well, I had
clean?
given that letter that Jim wrote back to Mr. Halloran and asked him to give it back to Lombardo and address those issues in a more detailed way, because that's what I said the board would be looking for,
Yeah.
just based on the history of the property. And I haven't received anything to this date, but,
How long ago was the previous issue resolved?
Since
A year?
Past year. So
About
it was
a
all-
year,
I was
maybe.
on
I'd
board.
like to know if, and we might have to ask town council, if there's any way we can even stop it from happening. just
an
based
allow-
on previous behavior,
It's an allowed use in that zone.
even if somebody hasn't complied in the past?
Because it's the composting wasn't allowed, you know, he violated the
Yeah.
composting, but this is a different use. It's an agricultural use, which is allowed.
So this isn't actually an application for any kind of approval, so there would have to
No.
be,
He'd do it anyway, because he's allowed to do it on his land like that.
but if, to trigger, to go to enforcement, somebody would have to complain about the odor again.
Or the dust.
So
Or the
we would
noise
be, I
or
don't think
dust.
that we could have an inspection schedule. I'm not sure about that. And
No,
if
I
there
think
was
he
no
was just trying to be
complaint,
upfront with what he was doing so that he didn't run into the problem that he ran into before.
then-
And that's why, you know, Jim drafted that letter, and then we asked him, just give us, you know, the letter Lombardo gave was not a very detailed letter. It didn't give,
Yeah.
and just based on the history, you know, we were like, no, give more details of what you're doing, and then you have something more solid
Yeah.
to start with as a base, and then if they violate it, then you go after it, so.
I'm just wondering if there's any way to put more teeth in initially.
It's kind of hard because it's an allowed use.
It's nice that they're being upfront about it and letting us know what's coming down the pipe, and let's just keep our eyes open, and if there's a complaint, we'll address it.
Not let it go 4 years.
Yeah.
That wasn't fun. Okay. So Jim is going to update the letter, asking them to...
Well, Lombardo is supposed to update the letter, like give a response to Jim's
Oh,
comments.
did he already send this out?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Okay, didn't realize that. All right. We are running behind, sorry about that.
Was there, the volunteer thing that we needed to discuss, or we already all voted on that? Gave you your,
I thought we
Feedback.
voted on that.
we gave you your feedback by email
Oh.
about that money?
Yeah.
The money.
Oh, yeah, we'll vote on that later.
Okay.
We can do the 2 public hearings, and then
Okay.
there's just some other stuff that, if Gino gets here, we can do some of it.
Mhm.
If
Okay.
not, we'll carry some over, but there are some bills to be paid and permits to be signed, but we can do that after.
Okay, so hearings opened on 73 Hartwell Avenue. I think this, yeah, continued.
Good evening, so you said, I'm here, and Glenn Berger, the owner, and back again, for this project that's been kind of dragging on, and at the last meeting, there was a requirement from the board. It was clear that they wanted to have plans that required no variances and no variance from Title V or from the local regulations. And that's what we have before you now. That's what the plan states. That's what Jim Griffey's letter states. And I believe that all that needs to be done is signed. The reason we are here is because there is Regulation 23 that was poorly written, and I can say that because I was on the board at the time it was written, that requires notification for a wall, when it's supposed to actually be a wall that's within 10 feet of a property line. That was the intent. So we're here for that. We're notified butters. Like I said, we meet all regulations, and I believe Jim's comments said that he had no problems with the plan. If there new members want to see the plan, I can walk through the project a little bit.
I'd like to see it.
I
You'd
would
like
like
to see
to,
it? Okay.
yeah, I would like to.
All right. So this is the revision that we showed, most recent revision, which happens to be 9, I think it's a record. And it's an existing lot. This is Hartwell Avenue. We have a frontage here, and then it comes down straight and then opens up to the back. We have a conservation restriction here that we had to stay out of. We went through a few variations to try to fit the septic system closer to the house, and then we ran into issues from an abutter there. We ended up showing a primary and a reserve conventional, which is on this plan, fits in here. But then we decided to design what they call a drip system. So it's a bunch of long tubes in the ground. They're only a foot below grade, and it doses a couple times a day, and it just drips out of the bottom of that, and it'll infiltrate into the ground. There's a couple advantages to doing that, is that the system is actually not as tall, and that you don't have to show a reserve area for this particular system. We still have our primary reserve for the conventional, but we didn't have to show one for this, so it was able to get on the property. That's it. Like, so some of the
this
things.
is the wall that.
Yes, yes. So we're showing that it's, it's not, yeah, so.
And what's this line? This dotted line there?
That is an easement line, so as you can see, the driveway for this property here, this property here was given an easement to get into there. So we originally were gonna put the system in there, and then we realized that we found out through attorneys that you can't put it in there. Even though it's for the driveway, you still cannot use it for anything else.
And what's the breakout to the wall here, to the impervious barrier?
Well, the break,
From
so
the
it's
system.
5 feet from the edge of the system to the wall. The wall is only 1.5 feet high, so it's gonna be 2 blocks, probably a base and 2 blocks. So,
And what was your breakout on the conventional?
The wall is,
Hey.
the wall is about 3.5 feet, but it's still only 5 feet away from the system. And because of the driveway, we had to have a wall around the entire system.
I'm worried about you. You all right?
How you doing, Gino?
Okay,
Hi, Gina.
as they say, I'm in charge now? All right.
Well,
So we were just going through, I'll just bring you up to speed. Last time we were here, there was.
I'm just gonna bring Gino up to, just
Yeah, go
one
ahead,
second.
Okay.
Sonny.
So we started the meeting, and
Yeah.
since I'm the clerk, I just went ahead and started it.
No problem.
So
Thank you.
we didn't do too much.
I lost my key. I couldn't
Oh.
get my card.
Oh, boy.
I had to look for my spare.
So we're on the first hearing, 73 Hartwell.
Yep,
Rich is right here,
right.
so that's what we're going through now.
Thank you,
Ted's
thank
just
you.
going, okay, I'm sorry about
So
that.
as far as the project being brought up to speed, last time there were issues with, they didn't want fill within 10 feet of the property line, didn't want that variance, because we had asked for it, and because it was only to the street and the highway department agreed to it, we thought it would be okay, but the board didn't want any variances. The other one was that we were proposing some plastic covers down here, and those are not allowed by the regulations, so we would just replace them with cast iron covers, which don't look as good, but that meets the regulation, so.
I'm looking for the, what do you call the, pen in the pad.
What are you looking for?
I got the, I can't get into it. I have it in the computer, but that's okay.
Oh, well, he's got them right here. You can-
Okay, go ahead.
so you said the breakout on that was 3.5 to the impervious barrier for the
It's
conventional?
5 feet is the distance to the wall, but it's the
Or do you
the
wanna
wall
take,
is
do you wanna,
3.5
do
feet
you wanna
high.
take over?
Yeah.
It's surrounding the whole system.
Yeah, I guess my concern would be that DEP recommends 10 feet breakout. I'm not really willing to go against what DEP recommends.
It's not against a regulation, it's a recommendation. They're built at 5 feet all the time, and, it's gonna be, the system is in conformance with Title V.
But they don't recommend it.
I don't have the guideline in front of me,
I think I have
but they
this.
say 10 feet, but
Sometimes they go.
What's the, I can look it up.
it's the,
You know the reg?
Mike, so you,
Kevin?
Catherine, sorry. Mike, I have another Mike Baker somewhere.
Three.
I have a Rich Baker too.
Local regulation.
You might wanna read Jim's
Yeah,
notes.
forget about him.
He says it
I know.
complies with Title V.
All right,
Do you have-
sometime
It's
we
local
do
regulation
table
23?
votes.
Oh, no, it's a DEP.
This what they
Local
have.
regulation DEP is, local regulation 23 is for approval for use of a poly barrier or retaining wall
So we're looking for the,
within,
Those is 5 feet away.
requires approval within 10 feet of a lot line. DEP allows you to go within 5 feet of a lot line.
okay, so I wanted to see where it talked about the recommendation.
100 feet, sometimes we get 40 feet. Because they know how to wait.
Did the abutters, were the abutters notified about this
They make
hearing?
sure it's protected.
And do we have the receipts?
I
Shelley did it
notified the
because-
abutters because we canceled the last meeting.
Okay.
So I sent the notification to the abutters for the last.
All right.
If you have specific questions about how this wall would not, or concerns about how you feel this wall would not protect the environment, we can talk about that. I'd like to make sure that you're comfortable with it.
Well, let's take a look at where it says in the DEP regs.
So it's not in the reg, it's a policy.
Okay.
It's, so if you have to look on to, go into Title V, there's different menus to pull down. The policy.
So this was a different system. Is this the system that's like an inch, 3/4 of an inch
Right,
thick?
the pipe is it's a tube.
Okay. And so how is it better than the old?
Well, looking at it from the
Less
owner's
fill?
perspective, because there's less fill, there's less wall, I think that it also distributes it better, so you're gonna get better treatment out of it.
Kevin, do you remember where it is? I've got the.
15.255, section E.
13.255, so it's in the Title V reg? Or it's
15.255, construction and fill.
Oh, that one, okay. And then there's a,
Do you want to pass that to Aaron? Just the one.
Circled.
oh,
The conservation gave you any?
Shelley has some correspondence from Conservation. They're waiting for your approval. That's supposed to be the last permit that's issued,
Yeah.
so they're waiting for the Board of Health.
so. Yeah, the impervious barrier shall meet the following requirements. E, the recommended distance from the impervious barrier to the edge of the soil absorption system closest to the barrier should be at least 10 feet. So that's pretty clear, and I understand.
It's a recommendation, it's a very clear recommendation.
Yeah. And then
And
we've got abutters who we know are really concerned about it, so it seems that there would be a basis not to approve it.
So your
Is anybody from
reviewer-
the about here?
Yep.
You are?
Oh, good. Would you
Uh,
like to speak?
We might get you to 1 second. You'll be able to speak. Said this young lady asked. Would you finish your sentence?
So, your professional who does this for a living and makes recommendations on your behalf has said that this design meets Title V and your regulations. The proposed retaining wall is short and the drip system should not put a great hydraulic pressure on the wall. I don't have an issue with the wall. That's what your professional says.
We respect his opinion.
All right, now you may speak. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm an installer. I do them all the time.
yes.
New construction, I've never done 5 feet. It's 15 feet. From the edge of trench, 15 feet out level, and you have your 3-to-1 slope. It's like standard. So that's one. You know, two, he's saying that's what Jim said. He's also been on the board. I know it's been a long time, but, you know, him and Jim have a relationship. So, you know, with the board members, I think you guys should make your own opinions based off what the regulations say, and it says at least 10 feet. Should be at least 10 feet. So before you can do an alternative system, you have to prove you can do a conventional system with a reserve, then you can do the alternative system. So that's all, just go by the rules.
Well taken, but sometimes you just can't do it. Sometimes that's what the variances and the board will decide, you know what I'm saying?
That's fine, I have no
Sometimes-
problem with that, but I can see that for existing houses.
But I agree
New
with you.
construction should be cut and.
I agree with you. The question is sometimes he doesn't have any other choice, or either to move, he wouldn't move it 10 feet if he was able to do it.
So if he can't do
We
it,
can
it's
ask,
not allowed.
we can ask him again.
Well, if he
You
can
can
move it,
enough to
if
tell
he
us
can
why you
I
cannot
have
move
no
it?
problem, you can move it. If you can move it, go ahead and move it. I have no problem.
I'm asking the question, can you move it 5 feet? You can't, right?
Do you know, some lots are unbuildable. You just can't build on them. That's the,
But
you
you
can't
cannot-
meet the law, you can't
But
build
the
on it.
question is, sometime, they have a piece of property, they're paying tax and everything. Sometime.
He hasn't been paying taxes, actually. He's been paying taxes on unbuildable lot for the last 12 years, so
Unbuildable lot.
unbuildable, undevelopable. So now he wants to flip it, so he should be, at the same time, pay the back taxes if it's buildable.
But if you have, between you and I, if you have a property and you're paying for it, and someday you think that you might be able to build it, just because instead of going 10 feet, that you go to 5 feet, don't you think you'll give a gentleman a break if you can do it?
Me personally, no, because when I
See-
bought my lot, I was told it was the last lot. That's why I have the big issue here. If this was a lot the whole time, I bought my lot, known there's a lot behind me, no problem.
So you're in a
I bought my
division.
lot, was told it was the last lot, so that's why I have a big problem with it.
I
So,
understand.
If you can meet all the regulations with his 10-foot minimum, go ahead and do it. If you can't, it's not buildable. I have no
But
problem
I-
with putting the regular system in there, according to the
The
regs.
question is well taken. The question is, the board, is 5 of us, if they say we should give them a break, and there's nothing wrong with it, but give them a break for 5 feet.
Well, why
But
don't
Gino,
we-
there's
If that's
no,
what the board chooses, that's the
Yeah, why
board's
don't we
decision.
leave that for the vote, and you've got another butter, maybe.
there's no
you're-
break
You're
here.
not the
though.
butter? You're the butter?
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with the ordinances or the law.
Right, right.
But I was just, when the first proposal was to put it in the easement, so part of it into the easement, and that's been addressed, so I'm paying attention now just to what else is going on.
So that's your driveway.
That's my driveway, yeah, I just moved in August of last year. That's all, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And if the, I agree also, I mean, I bought an ancient house on a piece of property with a big, what I thought was not buildable behind me, and it may be. I mean,
Right.
you know.
Every circumstance is different.
for the record?
All right, WRIGHT. That's the other thing is that I'm not, my wife and I are owner of record and we've never been notified.
I see. I'm sorry about
We've
that.
we've had conversation, but we've never been notified.
Well,
Right.
when
the
did
way
you
the law
purchase it?
says.
When did you purchase?
August.
Because we asked for a butters list from the assessor's office, and what they give us is
Okay.
what we notify on, so if they haven't updated their records, then that's what we go by.
Would you object for an easement? Oh, they're just asking. Would you give an easement if you think 5 feet is enough?
Well, I've been to 2 other meetings here, and every time there's a question about an easement, it's always granted. When do we ever just stick with the rules?
Well, okay, we don't need an easement.
Okay.
We're not looking for any sort of break.
Okay.
There's no variances.
Okay.
And I take offense to somebody
sorry.
suggesting that my prior relationship on this board
Well, they got nothing to do with it.
and my relationship with Jim
Yeah.
it has anything to do with his decision. I mean, that should be an insult to Jim and myself.
Well, you know what, we're not
yeah.
gonna take that into account, because
Okay. Thank you.
you're right, but we don't need to go any further with
Okay.
that, because
Thank
that's
you.
done.
Thank you. All right, so, I mean,
Did you-
design meets Title V and your regulations.
You guys have any
Do you have
questions?
anything to say?
I know everything I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine.
So,
We-
Somebody needs to make a motion.
I don't know if this may be taken as a threat, but,
I'm sorry?
if this
No.
is voted against, this will be, I don't
Jim
know.
is not here, that's, I entertain a motion, or?
Wait, Jim's comments need to be read into the
Oh,
record, too.
sorry
Yeah,
about that.
do you want me to read them?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Fine, I'm sorry. The applicant, 73 Hartwell Avenue. Applicant has proposed the use of a perk-rate drip dispersal leaching area for the site. The system is considered an innovative alternative technology, and its use must comply with the Title V and the additional conditions of the separate DEP approval for this technology. The 2 biggest advantages of this technology are the low profile of the system, only about 3/4 inch thick, as opposed to 1 foot minimum with a leach field. This helps with the grading needed for breakout, and the second advantage of the system is the designer does not need to show a separate drip reserve area. The engineer has shown a conventional primary reserve area, see second sheet, in accordance with the above-mentioned DEP approval. The design meets Title V and your regulations, but needs the board's approval for the retaining wall. The proposed retaining is short, and the drip system should not put a great hydraulic pressure on the wall. I don't have an issue with the wall. I guess
Thank
I
you.
would probably ask Jim
Yeah. Thank
when
you
there
for reading
is, if they're asked, it does require some approval to be more, clear about what the regulations say.
The separate DEP approval that he wrote
No,
about?
if it comes to us for approval, because it doesn't mention
Doesn't mention it.
this item.
You should also read Amy's email.
Oh, right, sorry.
I didn't get that. Oh, that's the name?
Uh,
Yeah, right here.
You gonna read it?
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
From Amy Green, sent Tuesday, June 12th, 2018, to Michelle Cobley, Ray 73 Hartwell. The Conservation has resolved all the issues with the applicant and his engineer at 73 Hartwell, and is just waiting for Board of Health to give final approval of the septic system, so that the plans they approve are in fact the final plans. Ted Doucette has given me a set of the current plans. Assuming Board of Health approves the plan, I would expect Conservation to close the hearing and issue the permit on the 18th. In general, Conservation often suggests to the applicant that they get health approval first, so that they don't need to reopen our hearing if health requires a change. Conservation will have resolved all our issues before that point. An obvious exception are large subdivisions like Durkee, where Conservation approved all the pertinent houses based on envelopes for the systems, and then they have to come back for each change as the systems get final approval from health. Amy Green, Conservation Coordinator, Littleton Conservation Commission.
Okay, the board heard everything? They're going to entertain a motion?
I can make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to not approve this request based on the butters input, and where's the regulation?
Right here.
And the recommendation, which is under 15.255, construction and fill, is part of the Title V, Mass DEP Title V regulations, and that's, 15.255, construction and fill, 2E. The recommended distance from the impervious barrier to the edge of the soil absorption system closest to the barrier should be at least 10 feet. This plan wouldn't be in compliance with that recommendation, as it's only 5.
Okay,
A second.
second. Anybody else, you want to say anything? All right, so you say no?
You have to say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in
Okay.
favor, not approving.
I approve.
Could you do that again, please? 'Cause
All
not
in favor?
everybody-
Aye.
Okay, I say no, okay?
I'm not in favor, just clear.
So 3 for, 2 against, not approving.
No.
4 not approving, 1.
For not approving, 1 approving.
That's not right.
You gonna do this one, Gino?
So,
Now it's going to go to another board.
yeah, I mean, we don't have to, we've always been told that what Jim says is a guideline, and we
Right.
don't have, we can make up our own mind, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Okay, now we have a 7:30 hearing, 416 Newtown Road. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. There are- Nice to see you. Four 16 Newtown Road, okay, there we go.
All set, or you gonna read something?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just looking for something.
All right. I'm Steve Sears from David Ross Associates, and I'm here with Danielle Ferrier. She lives at 416 Newtown Road,
Okay?
and this is an existing house. Let me show you the site plan first. Do you have copies?
I did not make copies. I sent them to them electronically, but it was
I got
pretty
a couple,
straightforward.
one there and one here.
Do you have anything over there, 416?
This is Jim's, and then just use his plan.
Comments and the
No,
plan.
no,
I
you
sent
gotta have-
everything electronically
Okay, I understand that. Okay, does the Jim made any remark?
Yeah, it's right here.
on his comments.
Okay, also electronic, I'd like to have a copy if it's possible.
It's in your packet.
It isn't. I can't find it. find it, maybe my glasses are good.
Let's see, let me see if I have it over here.
Thank you.
I don't have it either.
Okay, we can share it.
Yeah, I don't have Jim's notes either. I mean, I've got them on my
Yeah,
phone,
this
but.
is Jim's notes right here.
Yeah, I think we were trying to do them electronically.
Okay, that's fine. I got everything.
Okay. You can read, do you want to read this?
Right here, yeah. We can share it.
So we're reading Jim's notes? Am I reading Jim's notes?
No, no, no.
No,
Let
no.
him present
No, I
first.
just,
Oh,
We-
oh.
We just
Oh, I
call
thought
it.
you.
I thought you
I'll
wanted
just-
to.
No, I can read
Okay.
this.
I'll give you the scenario
Yeah.
first.
Give us the scenario, please.
All right, this is, house number 416 is proposing an addition
This
to
is
the
mine or
rear
yours?
of the house. Therefore, we're encroaching on the existing system in the septic tank that's presently there now. The additional soil testing was performed on a portion of the town of Littleton land, which will be bought to allow the new sewage system and replacement and the related grading to extend further back.
So you got plenty of room there, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, Daniel's buying this piece here
Yeah.
for the town.
How did,
Um,
how are we gonna do that?
There will,
Sorry.
there's no increase in
It's under
flow.
Butters law. Okay.
There's
No
a-
increase in flow, right?
No, it's an existing
How many bedroom?
3-bedroom,
3 bedroom?
and it's gonna stay 3-bedroom.
Okay.
Danielle's
Only
just
thing,
enlarging the living space. Is it-
I have a son with moderate special needs, so I need to put a third bedroom upstairs, so that's the reason we requested from the town to purchase the land through Butters.
and that's why they ask you to put a new septic system?
Yes, we have to
Okay.
move it back in order
Yeah.
to get enough room to put the
I
bedroom
understand.
upstairs and move it.
Yeah.
So you're just reconfiguring
We're
Yeah.
reconfiguring
Right.
the space for
Continue.
same bedrooms.
Okay, and so basically, we're here because we are asking for a couple Littleton waivers. I'll recite them. Regulation 23A and
Okay.
27, is, again, retaining walls.
Right.
And the final grading is within 10 feet of the existing properties,
Okay.
property line. Now, we did notify butters, but nobody's here. And our wall is actually about 21 feet from the leach field, but we show the wall about 6 feet off the property line, just at the bottom of the hill. Again, it's only gonna be a couple feet tall. It's just to catch the fill and grading
Mm-hmm.
against the property line. So it's not really for breakout, it's just to catch the bottom of the
Okay.
fill. The other waiver variance we're asking for is 15240-1, on-site septic system with less than 4 feet of usable material in these two holes.
Oh, I see, yeah, yeah.
These two holes were good. We had a passing perk, and then these two holes had less than the 4
Oh,
feet
okay.
of material. So, and that's it. Did you follow everything I
So what do you mean by that, less than 4 feet of material?
Well, Title V says you're supposed to have 4 feet of
Sea soil.
sea soil.
Right.
And we're using the B soil, B horizon. We're using the subsoil, yeah, the B horizon, because we
Oh,
don't
okay.
have enough C horizon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which Title V allows you.
How are your perk rates? I couldn't read them all.
The previous perk rate was 15 minutes per inch. And it was too wet for us to do, oh no, actually, they sent their soil out, sieve analysis. They had a 30-minute rate come back from the civil analysis back in 2001. Jim and I actually performed the perk, and it was in December, so it was dry enough. We had 15 minutes per inch. So we get out better. When you send the soil to the civil,
They're conservative,
it always
yeah.
comes out
Yeah.
worse, so I don't know why.
Could you explain one thing to me? Are you adding a bedroom?
No.
No.
Just moving
No,
it.
so basically, the way that the leaching field currently now sits is up against the back of our house, so
Yeah.
which prevents us, based on how the lot is structured, from going back at all. And in order to structurally go back, I need about 10, 15 feet to kind of get enough room, so that we can basically we're moving a downstairs bedroom upstairs.
Oh, okay.
So it's a reconfiguration of the current existing
Okay.
space. I mean, it increases in square
You said,
footage.
I heard add a bedroom, and that's what.
No, well, I'm adding a bedroom to the
Right.
third floor. I have two on the, no, second floor. It's not a three floor. So two on the second floor now and one on the downstairs, but I can't, for safety reasons, I can't. I have two kids. They're both younger. One has moderate special needs. I need him upstairs for safety purposes.
Okay.
And basically, that's all I have now. I don't know if you want to read Jimmy's note, letter.
Okay, I have it right here. Okay, let me see. 416 Newtown Road. The applicant would like to add living space to their existing home, okay? The number of a bedroom will stay the same. So far, the purpose of Title V, this will not be considered in new construction. In 2001, the septic system for this house was replaced. Replaced already that time? My God. Okay, and the time required, a variance to Title V was granted. Use of siege analysis in lieu of a perk test. The current owner have the ability to purchase property to increase their lot size, which will allow a new septic system to install further from the house to allow a room for the additional living space. Am I correct? Like you said?
It won't be a new room. It will be
yeah,
yes, a
they
reconfiguration.
replace it
is
from
my
one area to
understanding.
the other,
Yes,
okay.
what they've told us, yep.
Additional soil testing was conducted in the area, was found to move this existing system, but the design will require Title V variance, depth of a previous soil, and the variance to your local regulation filled with the 10 feet of the lot time. Am I correct?
Yes.
I don't see any issue with the request variance. The lot is going to become larger. The area is served by town water, and the proposed fill shall not affect the abutting property. If you grant a variance, it will recommend the following condition. The house can't have more than 3 bedrooms and 8 room total. If I do proof of land ownership must be submitted to the board prior to the construction of the system. So our agent has no problem,
Right.
okay?
Or he wants to see proof that we've purchased the land
Right. You have any proof?
before the construction.
So we're in the process with the town. The town is currently assessing the land.
Okay.
So it's 4,800 square feet through the abutters law.
Okay.
But the purchase isn't complete yet on the town's, the
Okay.
town isn't ready yet to.
I just recommend one thing. The young lady there, she's just like a warden from the prison. When you're ready,
I work with DCF, I get
when
it.
you're ready to have a document,
Yeah.
would you please send a copy
Of
to her?
course.
Because we, especially me, because my God, she's gonna pick on me
No
for 2
worries.
months.
Do you have a card by chance, or a way to contact you? Okay, great.
Could so 2001, there was a sieve analysis, but you mentioned a perk test. When was that?
Jim and I just did the perk test. When we did the new testing,
So when was the perk test?
December.
This
December
past December.
2017.
And what did the perk come up?
15.
Oh, okay.
Better off.
And what's the depth to groundwater?
How deep did you go down?
Depth of the perk?
Down groundwater.
Groundwater. We have actually estimated 28 and 24 inches, but because the system was graded up here, we had to dig through like 5 feet of fill. Let's see, BW 1124, down to 65 inches. So she already had a raised system in here. So we're moving it back. So the original ground underneath this, the groundwater was at 24 and 28 inches. It's confusing because now this fill is already in here, except for where we're gonna put the new fill and grading in the back.
So this looks like it's similar to the last one in that they're asking for variance to the 10-foot offset.
That was a wall.
This system is 20
Wall,
feet
not fill.
off the wall. His was only 5 feet.
He was
Oh,
having
the
a wall.
wall,
He was
not
putting
the-
retaining wall, not a, not
10
fill,
feet.
fill to the edge.
Good question.
But wouldn't there have been 10-foot within the,
We have 20 feet.
yeah, okay, I was going back.
Yeah, he was going from the system to the wall 5 feet.
Yeah,
Title V recommends 10.
Yeah.
And we've gone 20.
Right.
It's just that our wall is closer to the property line, not the system.
Right, right. All right, so you have heard. Have you any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, why, have you considered an innovative alternative system here?
Yeah, they're very costly. I gotta tell you, I disagree with the drip right system.
We're on camera too.
Okay.
So-
So what I was thinking is,
Okay, thanks. Too late. But anyways, yeah, they're very costly, and we find that the stone and pipe systems will last a lot longer, and I mean, it's a little more invasive, but it's a product that we designed that we know, I'm not gonna hear it for 30 years. You use some of these new alternative systems.
but I mean, with like a Presby with no moving parts, to get that 2-foot groundwater offset, maybe in conjunction with an interior plumbing change, she might be able to eliminate the pump chamber and the retaining wall. If she's friendly with her neighbor, she can get a grading easement.
No, the plumbing is so, we're still gonna need a pump, tank and a pump, even with a Presby. Presby, this is, we had to still base it on a 30-minute perk rate, so your Presby
You
system.
could get the 2-foot.
What?
You could get the 2-foot with a 30.
Title V says you must design maximum feasible compliance. So that's what we've done. In other words, 4 feet fits, so we did it.
I mean, I
Well,
think it,
I'm
I think
not
it
like-
might look
I'm-
nicer and save her money if you do it.
Well, with an alternative tech, you're not gonna save any more money. You're gonna pay that end versus
On the
the
other
fill
end.
on this one.
There are some people, as you know, just don't like the Presby,
I-
or don't believe.
Well, when Title V says maximum feasible compliance, I mean, if I can meet 4-foot offset, and we can, we do it. I don't go to 2-foot because
But the way it
I'm not
looks.
trying to, I don't wanna pollute the environment.
Mhm.
I'd rather have the 4-foot offset and have a little more fill than go with an alternative tech system that's gonna cost more and have the system closer to the groundwater.
I'm also gonna throw a
groundwater.
question in, because for me, there's a fencing issue, and so I also ideally need room
Fence.
for fencing, for safety purposes.
Mhm.
So if there's, my understanding when we put in the fences, we always have to watch how we're doing that in this type of situation. And so if we're squeezing from 4 to 2 feet, if I understand all what we're talking about, and this isn't my industry, so I'm not sure I do, but I wouldn't want to do that because it would compromise my room to put in a fence for safety purposes for my kid.
Well, did you
I
ever?
don't know if that would compromise.
I don't know,
that,
I'm not sure,
So,
I just know if you
Are
squeeze
you
room
friendly
in-
with your neighbor to the left?
If you're facing my house to the
Yeah.
left, I'm not going to ask that neighbor for any favors.
Okay.
That would be my answer.
All right. Okay.
When you install.
Yes.
Do you ever recommend your client to keep the septic system clean every 2 years, especially when you have
Yes,
3 children?
it's on our plan.
Okay.
We
You
pump
do
every
em-
year.
You do emphasize.
I pump every year.
Okay.
Every year.
Every
That's
year.
even better, yeah.
Because when the beginning, when I came in the board, one guy almost cried, and I said, "What are you crying for?" I said, "I have to replace my septic system." I says, "How long you lived there?" He said, "Well, 25 years."
Ain't
I
never-
said, "When was the last time you cleaned it?" "Oh, I never thought I was supposed to clean it." So it bust. That's why I recommend, every year is fantastic.
care of every year,
I do it
yeah.
every 2 years,
Yeah, we have a note every 2 years, so we have it checked and
But
pumped.
it's good to emphasize that.
But,
The reason I ask is because the neighbor to the right just put in a new system maybe last year.
Did, yes. The other neighbors put in a system 3 to 5 years ago.
And his is gravity, and
the way the plumbing is here, we can't meet gravity. It just, you can see where the tank, you can see
Even-
where the tank and a pump are way down here anyways. Even if we were allowed the extra 2 feet, groundwater upset with an alternative tech. So, when we can do stone and pipe, we know the system's gonna last because it's old fashioned, like me. And I've seen too many Cultecs and infiltrators, 7, 10, 11 years old, complete failure. Presby's out there, but it's brand new, it's not been long-term tested.
been in New Hampshire forever.
Have they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people like it, some people don't.
Conventional is always the preferred method from Title V, if it can fit and comply.
Yeah, trenches first, leach field, and then so forth, Presby and down the line, so.
What does he have next door? Trenches?
Pardon me?
Does he have trenches next door? Did you look at his plan?
I didn't, John Scott's?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I want to
Actually, might have-
take a look at it. I don't know.
but,
Might help you.
But anyways, yeah, I mean, we try to conform to Title V, as not just to
As
try
much as
to,
possible.
try to squeeze something in there. I mean, obviously, I've designed presbys. In fact, I've got 2 on my desk right now that I'm doing, because nothing else fits.
Mhm.
But when traditional fits, I'm,
Yeah, it fits, but it's,
Not your room.
you know.
right.
But
already
according to
about 6
Title
feet high,
V,
not
it
really.
doesn't matter what it looks like,
The rest will
it's,
go
Yeah,
lower,
it's kind of-
right?
that it meets
It's already
compliance.
gonna go lower than what it currently is my understanding.
Is it?
Yes, we're actually in 2001, my understanding is there was excess space left back then, but when you guys approved, not you personally, but the board. And so it's actually higher than both of my neighbors, because now there's a realization that they could be 3 feet lower. So already it's taking it down.
It's gonna feather out better than
Plus you have more
hers
land
now.
now.
Hers right now, it looks like this. It's just crazy looking.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Well,
look
take
better,
care.
so, and we're maintaining the 4-foot groundwater offset, which is maximum feasible compliance.
Anybody has any comment? Do you want to say something? on
Yeah,
it?
what do you do with the existing? Do you take it out?
If they run into it in the gravel area, they'll take it out.
Mm-hmm.
You can use that, Title V DEP says you can use that for fill and grading around the edges. If we don't disturb this part of it, it just gets left there. The tank over here in the old pump chamber, that'll be pulled out of there because it's too close to the house. Yeah, pump chamber tank, the old ones will be removed out of there.
Anybody else here say anything? Young lady, you have anything to say?
No, I'm good.
All right. Kevin? Kevin?
If you're not interested in, trying to bring it down even further and, trying to eliminate the retaining wall, a little bit of it, then
Well,
it's up to you.
again, I mean, we try to meet maximum feasible compliance with Title V. That's stated right in
I
there.
get it. I'm just trying to help.
I know. But we meet 4 feet, so we're doing it. If we could only meet 3 feet, we'd be asking for that. And, but
Okay, I entertain a motion. Anybody wants to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the request for variance, 416 Hartwell, 416 Newtown Road. Um,
Right here.
I need the-
Oh, you
oh,
want?
you want the plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a copy right there.
Sorry about that.
Detailed on plan dated January 2018. Doesn't have a,
It's got a stamp. That's all we, right there.
It's the date.
1/12/18.
January.
Okay, January 2018, David Ross. 4, that's what I was looking for. I just want to get
For the variance, so
fill within 10 feet of lot line and depth of pervious soil.
I hear a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Although,
Good
should
luck.
we say something?
Oh,
You need me to
about
send
get the
something?
letter for the
Purchase, yeah, the
purchase.
purchase of the land.
Oh, yeah, I
So I
already
have
told
the- I
her.
have-
She already took notes.
We exchanged cards, so before.
Okay.
I know, it's been in the works for a while,
Okay.
so I know that it's ongoing, so.
yeah, we drew the plan in January, and then we've been kind of like
Mm-hmm.
waiting for a review, and,
Then the winter came and so forth.
And I
Are the
knew the
butters-
town vote was on butters in.
Yeah,
like,
so we-
Are the butters
Yeah.
agreeable? I mean,
The
are you?
town voted approved, yep, so we're just in the
Yeah, I-
assessing process.
Yeah.
we notified the butters I gave.
Yeah.
You have one of
The
these?
town was the owner?
Got it?
So the town was your butters?
You need it?
The town owns that piece of property, yes.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming.
All right, thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you. You guys are just one step in there.
We do Presby.
Mhm.
We do Presby's.
I think it'd be better for it. You should ever consider it.
I know, I'm just, we try
I think that's Kevin's.
not to sound like,
Kevin, is this yours?
Yeah, thanks.
not to sound like a real jerk, but we try to follow the letter of the law
Mhm.
as much as we can.
Yeah, I get it.
That's why.
I appreciate that.
They meet the core code.
Conventional is always the best choice.
Mhm.
Pardon me? Yeah.
Conventional is always the best choice, you can do it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Oh, by the way, nice meeting all the new members. I think the last time I was here, Gene was
Change of regime.
Yeah, that's right.
You change the guard.
Good night now. Bye, Steve.
Aye.
So you can do the minutes if you want.
Yeah.
Anybody read the minutes? Let me see, I think I got.
Louise and Kevin can review them for grammar and spelling errors and all that,
I
but-
think,
I have a question about the minutes. How do you get them from the video?
No, I take, if I'm here, I
You take
take
notes,
them,
okay.
yeah.
got it.
but otherwise it's the video.
Otherwise, it's a video, but that's not, that's why they want someone here, is because there's times that the video doesn't always work.
Mm.
And that's not actually a legal record of the meeting, the minutes are the
Okay.
legal record, so.
So
Someone here.
I just want to make sure we get 73 Hartwell right. Here, it's proposed septic fill is within 10 feet of the property line, which is a right-of-way for the street. So at that point, he was asking for 10 feet of the property line for
That
fill.
was like,
That was
yeah,
fill.
that was a previous version of the plan, yeah.
Can I just say, administrative matters, I think it was me that went to the Council on
Yeah.
Addiction. Not Erin.
Yeah, I didn't type these ones, so please let me know what's not right.
Okay. I, they're fine to me,
That's it.
except for that.
Yep. So somebody can make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes, February 13, 2018.
Everybody read it?
Yes.
It's
I
just
read
us
it.
three. Lisa?
Yep, I, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What else is on?
So we have some, I'm gonna pass this down, this is a contact list, just check your email, phone number, cell phone number, and add, subtract, cross out as you wish. We can make a motion for that, I had sent the email out, MRC, looking for some funds for that, recruitment potluck supper thing, so let's just make a motion to legitimize
Entertain a
that.
motion about releasing $400, any?
Mm-hmm,
Okay, you must
I'll
know all
second.
about it, right?
Yep.
yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
This is Cordiana. All right.
Do we have, are we invited to the potluck supper?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I sent the email out,
And we-
if you just let me know
We'll
who's
eat that
going,
day,
so I
you
can let them
as
know.
much as you can.
Well, it means I gotta cook too. What day is it? June something?
I think it was June 20, I think, June
I don't
20?
remember.
You have
I
that?
forwarded it out to you guys.
I know you did.
Yeah.
Was it June?
Maybe, the date, maybe the 21st. I'll forward it again tomorrow. And just, yeah, if you can just reply back and let me know so I can tell them who's coming.
Yeah, you send us, I remember.
Gina, these are for you to sign, just three bills, and then I get some permits, and then,
Oh, cool.
Erin, if you wanna bring up
Yeah.
what you had brought, and then we can do board reorganization.
Well, that's actually part of the board
Okay,
organization.
so,
50.
So there's some permits here. There's little notes on them. Most of them are just D boxes. Get that off. Single components.
Buddha.
This, we can not sign. This,
That's it.
this. Okay, so the ones on the top are just, one of them is a Cooper Farm, just a septic tank. Some of them are D boxes. One is 41 Tattawan Road, which was at a previous meeting, and you had asked for a revision of the wording of the variance on the plan. One's for 416 Newtown Road, which you just approved.
Can we have that back? Thank you. Everybody okay? All right. Right.
Oops.
There's more than one.
Perhaps a lot of them.
Okay. That's why they want a new school.
Oh,
More, we built more houses.
Oh, those hospitals.
Okay, that's all right. The replacement distribution. of
And take
box
your time
one.
on these. I mean, you guys don't have
Yeah.
to sign these because you weren't here, but
You
I
got
think we
them,
need to take our time on these because, yeah.
you gotta read them.
Make sure that it
Yeah.
says 3-bedroom house.
Make sure it says the number of bedrooms, you mean?
Yes, bedroom count, and make sure that
See, some of them, they want just a replacement of the box only, and some of they ask for changing everything.
Yeah, so this was, the Fields, on 119, they're doing a shared septic system for a bunch of that housing up there.
Are we supposed to sign it if we weren't?
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
No, no.
You don't have to
No.
sign it,
No.
as long,
You-
three, that you do it,
You'll be held to it.
yeah.
Yeah, because you didn't vote for it, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Oh.
sign it.
Because these are,
All right,
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
I
sign
thought
it.
these, I thought
I don't
everything
sign
got
them.
cleaned up
Here.
at the last meeting, so what are these all from?
They just came,
These don't require any variances, I guess.
Oh, okay.
they,
So
Right.
maybe we can sign them then.
These don't require.
No, you gotta wait.
This is the permits unless,
So we
I wouldn't
Like
sign
the
them
last
unless
one.
you're there.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, all of those are just D boxes, all the ones on the top,
yeah, we seen that.
they can sign.
Oh, they can sign for the box only?
Yeah, those are, nobody needs to
All right,
come
there is,
before the board,
also,
they're just single
distribution.
components.
We'll be waiting, okay, read, if it's only for the box only?
The only one they might not want to sign is the 41 Tehadawon, because they didn't vote on that one. Everything else is
Okay,
single components, and
This is
the
what
460
it is.
Newtown, which was tonight.
now, is this the D boxes, is that changing the design or anything like that?
It's just, a Title V was done, and it was a
Wow,
conditional
Title
pass,
V.
because the D box
Oh, I know
wasn't
that.
functioning proper, so it's just a D box
This one here,
replacement.
41. It's a
That's
big house.
nice for them.
Yeah,
Not
that's-
having to redo the whole thing.
That's awesome.
Yep.
They look the way I signed it, like a doctor.
I don't remember 41 Tehadawon, was that all day?
That was maybe in February or March, and it was just the wording for
See,
the
Oh,
variance was not on the
This one
plan.
also.
That was the one, the
April,
owners
April,
were here,
yeah.
the ABC cesspool wasn't here, it was the owners, and you just wanted the variance wording on the plan, so it was added to the plan.
Fine, so final fill and grading to be noted in as-built plan.
Okay, what the hell is you? Okay.
So not 41,
Oh,
No, because, no, there's 3 signatures is all we need, and they weren't part of that, so there's no sense in them signing it.
and this is the one that we just did?
So, 3-bedroom.
See, I printed them from
Oh,
home, that's
yeah.
even smaller.
Yeah, let's just go landscape.
Find the question. Okay, let me see.
Thank you.
Between this
Okay.
and the groundwater or the drinking water that Shelley sent me, my head was spinning.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Small writing.
Did you get one of these?
Yep. I
It
think
doesn't say what
Okay.
month and day, honey. Only you ask, hello again, as you know, the board graciously funded a part 1 of the new membership campaign last year, but doesn't say when it is.
That was in a separate email.
It was?
I forwarded it like a couple days before that.
Oh, Okay, a couple days before that? Okay, let me see. If you are in agreement, the board can make a formal
Yeah,
motion.
you know, go
Which we
like a
did,
day
but
or
it-
two before that.
Yeah, okay, let me look to see what day is it. Okay, Michelle. B. I can't find it. No. I don't see you before there. I don't see.
June 27th at 7 PM.
See,
Ha.
June 27th. Now we got it. See, I don't have to look. I couldn't
Is this
find
the
it. I
date
can't-
of the?
Potluck
Doubted
supper.
me, do you know?
What date?
I'm not-
June
oh, I got
27th.
it.
I don't know
Oh,
what
I'm
day that
sorry.
is. Is that a Thursday?
I think. No, it doesn't.
Well, today's the 18th.
This is a Thursday.
Today's the 12th.
27th, right?
Yeah, Monday is the
27th.
18th.
June 27th is a Friday. Oh, no, that's July. Never mind.
Wednesday,
And there's
It's a
gonna be where?
Wednesday, yeah, a week
where?
from next Wednesday, 2 weeks from tomorrow.
next when.
Where it's gonna be?
Fire station?
There's something happening.
Oh, the
with
fire
it.
station, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Got it stuck in my head.
So then you gotta do.
Today's the 18th.
Fire station, such a nice place.
I haven't been to the new one yet.
Oh, yeah.
So for the correspondence, would we be talking about the DEP 2018 Notice to Local Boards of Health on the, from the water, drinking water program?
You can if you want.
I'd rather wait. It's kind of a lot.
Yeah, I haven't read it.
Yeah, I didn't get through
Most
it
of
all.
what I send, it just comes in and I forward it to you as
Well, I think we-
informational and if,
What day
you
was
know.
it?
I
It's
think
a
we have to
Wednesday.
submit something.
No, when she sent it to you. when?
Oh.
So I guess the
Okay.
question is whether Jim's going to do it, but maybe.
Jim does anything that needs
Alex sent it out Thursday, May
responses, Jim
31st.
generally
Oh,
handles it, I just
May
forward it
31st.
to
Oh,
you for
okay, so I must have
informational
deleted it when I
purposes.
saw it. Because
Okay.
I call up and I say, okay, no problem with me. Then you guys call, right?
So I guess on the, because the correspondence updates is, can we just confirm with Jim that he's responding to all this? Okay.
I read a little bit about it, and one thing that was kind of interesting, I think camps, there was something about drinking water in camps.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And
Yeah.
the Board of Health is responsible for licensing local recreational camps. Licenses are issued in accordance with 105 CMR 430-, which stipulates upon the issuance of the license, the local Board of Health shall notify Mass DEP and Massachusetts.
Yeah, so those are like annual licenses that have to be renewed for the recreational camps.
Is that usually Park and Rec do that, or do
No,
we see
everything's
that,
done
or-
through Neshoba, all the
Okay.
permitting is done through Neshoba, so, you have the day camps that submit, their annual permits.
So it's not this
Long
Board of
Lake-
Health, it's more than Neshoba Board of Health, this is more
Like the
pertaining to
Long
them.
Lake testing is done every week and the results get sent and we post it on the website, but if if it's out of the parameters, Neshoba handles that.
Okay. Well, like I said, I just skimmed the very beginning, and when it said Board of Health, I wasn't sure if it was us or, because I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
I've only been on for a year, but I've
No,
never seen it.
No, Neshoba handles basically all the permitting parts of
Mhm.
of it. Everything gets submitted through them, and then we get copies here, but they don't have to come before the board for it, because they're just annual permits.
Mhm. Okay.
They go down and they do inspections of the camps annually, to make sure they're in compliance.
Kind of just
They
renewing
do-
them every
yeah,
year.
They do swimming pool inspections every year for all the swimming pools, like at the camps, and
Down Long Lake, they test the water.
Yeah.
Long Lake, they test the water every week.
No.
And
So far it's
Neshoba
good.
too?
So
not
far
Nesho-
it works.
Camp Neshoba is
Neshoba?
tested, yep,
Mhm.
yep.
Okay.
So we have left So, reorganization of the board. We have discussion on a proposal of regulation changes. Aaron gave, a list of some of the Board of Health duties and stuff. I'm working on your new books. I haven't got them done
Yeah,
yet.
actually, this was like a to-do list, so it would have to do with the board or reorganization. I mean, reorganization as far as the officers, but also just kind of a reset, just to see if we were interested in doing that. Starting, resetting a couple of things, just to clarify.
So just to let you all know, I'm like no longer the admin. I'm just filling in until we hire an admin, so I'm trying as hard as I can to keep up with stuff, but I do
Who's in
have
charge of hiring the admin?
me.
So you're motivated.
You
It's,
don't get any help?
well, it's, the admin is, it's a shared department. It's Board of Health, zoning and building. And so Roland is actually the department head, and then Keith Bergman is the approving authority, but we posted the job in January, and then we ran into some issues with my job change, so that position was put on hold, and then the person we had found took another job, so we had to repost it. And then the person we picked the second round, we were then told we couldn't hire her because of a conflict of interest, so we asked to put it out again, and just with timing with vacations and year end and other things that are going on, they aren't able to repost it till July, so I'm just still trying to cover until we get somebody's.
Can you take the job and take a part-time job just to come us, help us out? Nobody's gonna replace you. You should do, give you more money, stay where you are.
So, do you want to vote first and then go through this stuff? Take a quick look. So,
Why don't we, so these the proposal on some regulation changes, Kevin gave some comments. Just to kind of run over what the procedure is for this, and then you guys can decide how you want to go with it. You can discuss it tonight, or you can take these home and kind of redline them and make comments and put it on for further discussion
That's what you
next
told me,
time.
right?
What Jim suggested was, everybody kind of go through those septic regulations and make your notes, and then have a discussion meeting where you just sort of talk about what you would propose as changes or amendments. Then we have to post it as a public hearing for 2 consecutive weeks prior to having the public hearing. A public hearing, at which time you would present that draft copy of what you're proposing. You talk about the changes, you take public input, and then you would finalize your changes. Then we have to, after a motion is taken on those, they have to get published in the paper, sent to DEP for approval, and then they become effective. So it's, we're talking probably a couple months process, and so my suggestion would be, maybe take what Kevin's given you, everybody go home and go through those regs, and sort of make your own notes on what you would like to
If
talk
it-
about or propose
The DEP
changing.
might say no, right?
And then next meeting, have a discussion among the board, and then set a date that you want to do the public hearing.
yeah, I think it's going to take a while to
Because,
get to the point where
and I
we're
would
ready to-
suggest, once you kind of come up with everybody's ideas on one piece of paper, we give it to Jim to review, to make sure you're in compliance with, Title V and your authority, and then post the public hearing. Other advantage being, where we're getting into July, Jim is sometimes available on Tuesday nights in July and August. So he could probably come, if we set a night that we tell him for the public hearing, he could be present to answer any questions on that night, which I would recommend that you have him here on that night.
All right, well, let's vote and then get to it.
Okay.
I don't even know how you do this. I don't like-
Well-
You've been through this a couple of
Reorganization.
times, what happens?
Okay, usually the chairman, vice chairman say, he makes the first move. If the board agree, I make a motion that she be the vice chairman of the Board of Health, and everybody approve, don't. If anybody else has a different token, they can make a motion for somebody else, whatever. If it doesn't, it stays what,
So anybody can make a motion for anything, and
Right.
if a motion
Usually-
is seconded, then you take a vote.
Yeah.
Um,
usually the vice chairman becomes chairman, then everybody can move around. So then next year, she can become chairman, and I started in the beginning.
I think I only have one more year.
Is this your last year, Gino? 2018 or
No, he's got 2 years.
I got
2
2 more
years
years.
left? You have
Maybe
one
I
more
have-
year left?
Maybe I have 2
You
years.
have 2 years also, yeah.
So, I've been here for, how many years, honey?
More than me.
Really?
You gotta be flexible,
Kevin.
David.
Kevin?
Kevin. Why can I call you David? A nickname,
We have
and
David.
Kevin
We have David.
Baker. I know so
That's
many
why
people
he's-
the same name, jeez, Louise. The only one I know is her. I don't think anybody else
What's my
has.
name?
Erin, there's only one.
Oh.
You got it.
Only
I
one.
forget everybody's name, too.
But, so it's hard to new faces, you know? You're gonna find out whether you're gonna like me, hate me, or love me. You got 3 choices. That's it.
Well, I don't think being on the Board of Health and decisions are made have anything to do with loving or hating. We don't love or hate each other.
We just
I mean,
work
we love
with you.
everyone, so it's not personal, just like, you know, we
She's
don't
quick
get
with
into
the
personal
answers, yeah.
stuff.
All right, so she be the vice chairman.
No,
Who
and
wants to-
somebody
she
has
be-
to make a motion.
He has to make a motion. She be the clerk?
Nominate somebody, you
Be
can
the
do it
clerk.
in whichever order you want. We need chair, vice chair, and clerk, so somebody needs to be nominated.
Let's do the
and then
chair
that's
first, 'cause
Seconded,
that's-
and then a vote, and you can make as many nominations as you want and
Start
vote,
with the
but-
chair.
Have you been chair before, Gino?
Yes. Because of rotation, I've been so many years. But we always go by rotation.
Uh-huh.
Usually, I'm in a different boards too, okay? On the Housing Authority appointed by the governor. And the chairman, she's been a chairman for 20 years. And she tells you, you be the vice chairman. Gino, you be the treasurer. I says, even though it was my turn to be vice chairman, she made the motion. Actually, she went against the rule and regulation. But the lady's about 80 years old. I'm not gonna cause any trouble. I can call the state and say, look, this lady here, she's been here too long. But I'm not doing that. But usually the vice chairman becomes chairman,
Okay.
okay? That's how it works. All right.
I guess I appreciate you being chairman, vice chair, but I think I wanted to nominate Erin to have a turn to be chairperson, chairwoman, we politically correct?
Chairperson?
Chairperson.
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 Because you've already had a chance, she hasn't. I don't want to be nominated, so don't, yeah.
Is it a 1-year term, the chairman?
Yeah, you re-vote every year after elections.
But next year, none of us will be up for any seats, because we're all,
Yeah, you still do a vote
Still
of
do, okay.
reorganization, yep. Okay, so is there
I
a second
will
on that
second.
nomination?
I will second for Erin to be chairperson.
so do we want to take a vote? All in favor?
All in favor?
Do I vote on that?
You can, everybody can vote.
All in favor of Erin being chair?
But Kevin, they say nothing, so it is your turn.
I'm new here.
Huh?
I'm new here.
Well,
She's
gonna
vote. He's gonna vote.
She's two, she's a new.
She seconded,
I
now we're
second
gonna send it to a vote.
Okay, everybody
And all
has
in
to say.
favor of Erin being chair for the year, this year, say aye.
Aye.
Go ahead.
You gonna be my buddy?
Yeah, sure. They vote
Sure?
you in.
Promise?
I promise, sure.
I'll only do it if Gino helps.
I help you.
You will?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay.
So Gino.
So who they,
So Gino's,
I make a motion for Gino to be chair, vice chair.
okay,
I second.
okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay.
And I'm gonna make a motion for Lisa to be clerk.
I second that.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
I accept.
You don't have a choice.
Okay.
That's why I accept.
Don't look at us.
I'm the chair on
Do you have a
training
job
wheels.
description about what a clerk does?
Yeah, you have to sign.
Basically, if there's not an admin here, you should just take a record of the votes that are taken. You don't have to take full minutes and everything, but just take a record of any motions that are taken. And then.
I sometimes do it right on the agenda.
Yeah, and then they'll transcribe from
Like
there,
whose
but just,
motion was
that's
made?
the, is,
I
so,
did that in the
so in the
beginning,
minutes,
I-
that's essentially the most important thing, is that the motion is correct, because you have to just assume this tape is not here.
Yep.
So as long as you have who made the motion, who seconded the motion, and what the vote was on.
And what the motion was?
Not necessarily the whole wording of the motion, because for these upgrades, it's, you're
Yeah.
voting on them as shown on the plans, what. But if anybody votes against it, just what the vote was, 5-0, 4-1, whatever.
So like taking, almost like taking
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
But, hopefully within a month, you'll have somebody here.
Is there a drinking water source up here, or the bathroom or something?
Over
I'm
there.
really- Oh, jeez, it's right in front of me.
Go ahead.
I don't know what's
there's
wrong
any
with me.
water.
It's my allergies. are
I
like-
think there's a little bit of water there. They forget to fill it up.
So,
What?
Shelley, how, I mean, this person, I know they're gonna be, hopefully you said like have the background that you have, but they're not gonna have are they gonna know the Littleton regulations, or are they gonna have to look that up, or?
So essentially, the purpose of the admin is just to sit here and take minutes and hand you the packets.
You're just a
I
bonus.
just sort of used to do this in my past life, so I have that knowledge, but,
Okay.
which,
Were you on the Board of Health?
no, I used to work for a civil engineer designing septic systems, so.
Oh, that's handy.
But no, essentially their role is just to kind of keep you on track, make sure you don't open hearings before a posted time. If you're kind of doing an open meeting law violation, to kind of bring you back on track, that type of thing. It's sort of just to keep you in line.
Uh-huh.
But as far as knowledge of the regulations, it's really not their responsibility to know those, so.
Uh-huh. So there'll be a lot of questions, a lot of continuances, maybe, if we don't know. if
Hopefully
they-
not.
No. I think we'll know. These are, I mean, we'll just, once we get our books, we'll all have the regs in front of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, again, Jim is always available. The goal would be maybe to try to get the packets out, maybe like Thursday before the meetings, so you have time to review them, and then if you have questions for Jim, to catch him on a Monday or a Tuesday, but he's always available to answer questions. Email's the best way to get him.
Does it only can it only be Erin?
So,
No.
this
Any
kind
of
of
you
leads
can-
into why I put this together, and since, you've had so much experience and kind of operated a little differently than maybe the person coming in is going to have, maybe if we could go through this, just kind of tick list and brainstorm a little bit about what we need. Yeah, you can have that one. What we'd like to see, and what, just based on like our experience here, Gino's long experience, you're short, and my short, medium, and you're really, really, really short. So I just put together kind of this overview and of making, first thing is there's this link in here in this Board of Health guidebook that has all the regulations and pertinent information in it. And that's just the guidebook, and this is in your binder that Shelley puts together. So that's but that's a key part, and it's a cheat sheet. So it's really, really easy to follow. So,
We
you know,
should- we
like
should
you
bring
said,
our
if we
binders in.
have these with us, yeah. When I got my binder, it was like Peter Yaps or something, and it
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah, I'm making
Right.
all new binders
I
for
couldn't do much
everybody,
with
and I
it.
got-
But then, you know, if you bring a computer, you can just go on to, you know, click around too, because there's Wi-Fi here. So that's kind of the first thing. The second, just an outline of like governing laws, regulations, and guidance. We've got Massachusetts Title V, we've got Massachusetts well regs, I'm sorry I didn't put the reference in here, I could put the links in. And we've got the Littleton regs. And I think it'll be important for us to get a, you know, to outline what regulations we're dealing with and what the Board of Health is actually, what our mission is, what our regulatory responsibilities are, and to go over those. And that goes into the next one is responsibility and limits of jurisdiction of the Board of Health. So what are we supposed to be doing here per the regulations, not hearsay, not what somebody thinks, but absolutely per the regulations. And I think that might get done, the best way is to have a meeting where we get the Neshoba Health Agent, Jim, in, the Board of Health Administrative Assistant, whether that's you or the new person, and also, you know, I left somebody out here. I think this was a draft that we should have Keith Bergman or Anthony. And town council, if we decide we want to do that. And what we can do there is go over, you know, what the responsibility is of the board, and also roles or responsibilities of our board in the context of other boards, and also roles and responsibilities of the Board of Health staff. So everybody is understanding, like, what the responsibilities are. And as far as, you know, asking Jim questions, you know, we could talk to him about that. Maybe we want him to come to a meeting if it's in his scope of work. I don't know what his scope of work is.
You can all always reach out to Jim.
But what happens is that's just one person reaching out, and
It's
the,
okay, because as a board member, you're not making any decision making.
yeah, but what I've found is that we end up having one person talking instead of, and the rest of the information doesn't get to everybody.
The problem is when you have an email that everybody's on, and you have any discussion about a specific
Yeah.
thing, it's an open meeting law violation.
So we might want to think about, you know, ask Keith and Anthony what our contract with Neshoba Health Agent is, what the scope of work is, and and also the same with town council, and what sort of access we get to those staff. And that would come under the roles and responsibilities in the scope.
Right, so basically, town council will come out and go over with you open meeting law, ethics, communication, all that type of thing. And then as far as consulting town council, the procedure is if you request use of town council, it goes through the admin goes through Keith Bergman approves it, and then forwards it to town council, and then town council will either reach out to the chair or Jim, whoever is the one asking the question. So that's the way the use of town council goes. But I would recommend, where this is a couple new members on the board, to set up a time to have town council come out and go over the open meeting law, the ethics, because communication and all that, because you just don't want to get yourselves in trouble with that. And that's why I always tell you, like, if I send something out, you can reply back to me, because I'm not a board member, so I can't violate open meeting law. But if you, between yourselves, send out an email and start talking about something, and there's more than 3 members on that, that's an open meeting law violation.
So the first thing I want to do is talk about having a meeting where we pull in Jim, administrative assistant, Keith or Anthony, and possibly town council
I don't
for
see.
one meeting.
I don't
The
see-
second thing would be coordination with, I'll let you do
Yeah,
it in
yeah,
a
go
second.
ahead, go ahead.
Coordination with other related boards, and I know that Concom is interested in finding out what each board does and how we all fit together, rather than being stovepiped. So those were the two immediate action items to decide whether we want to do that. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said Anthony practically is out of his league. The attorney be fine, and Jimmy.
Will they know the
Those-
scope of work and what the contract is with the Neshoba Board of Health?
That's what I said. Jimmy and the attorney knows more than the Anthony does.
Well, we want to know from the town side what the expectations are of the
If
permission
you
of the
want
board.
to, you want to try, he might say that it's out of a lead, but anyway, he can do that if you want.
He should know, somebody's got to know what the contract
In all these
says.
years that we've been here, I don't think even Shelley ever mentioned about Anthony or the administrator,
Yeah,
okay?
well, we've got a
So-
contract that we pay Neshoba Health Agent for something.
Mhm.
It has a scope and budget. For sure. I saw the budget, it looked pretty low.
It is low.
Yeah.
But that can be brought in
Services they
front of,
provide.
that can
Yeah,
be,
so it might, I think it would be good to understand that, you know, where we stand on that.
the only way you can do that is to approach the selectmen. Those are the ones that make the decision and where the budget's gonna be,
Yeah.
not Anthony, the selectmen.
No, we wouldn't be making a request, we'd be getting some information
Yeah,
so we understand.
but we can make suggestion to the selectmen, say, you know something? We had a nice administrator on the Board of Health, all of a sudden she's on a different boards. And we need somebody that doesn't know what the hell is going on. We need somebody to be there, not only to watch us on television and take notes. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's an asset to the board. Because no matter, I worked 40 years on construction, and probably no more than she does, but the question is, she's qualified because she's
I think
in
she's
the
moving
office.
on to bigger and better
Yeah.
things. if I'm not mistaken.
Moving up, you know.
So
She's blushing.
But we definitely want, when the next person comes, to get,
Even though,
put them in a
though,
position where they have a scope and know, and don't get stepped on,
Yeah.
basically.
No, I think it would be good
Or
where this is
expanding things
an-
out.
Yeah, I think
you
it
know.
would be good to have a meeting to just
Yeah.
kind of go over all
So,
these things.
what do you guys think
Yeah.
about scheduling those meetings?
You mean in addition to our normal meeting?
Well, we might have to, do we have to be on TV? Because we wouldn't be
Well,
making any decisions.
No, and summertime gets a little bit slower, but what you can also do is,
Slower in terms of our agenda.
yeah.
Like we would do it on a regular meeting.
Yeah, because a lot of times in the summer, we eliminate one meeting a month, and,
Oh.
you know, so,
That
you
would
could
work.
do it as just a meeting that, if you guys want that as a meeting that we don't schedule any public hearings, and it's just
Okay,
these items
House cleaning
and.
type thing.
yeah. It won't take much, but I think it'd be good to touch base. I mean, I
half an
feel,
hour, yeah.
I feel like it would be really helpful
If
for
you want,
me.
if you want to do, that's fine.
I mean, as of right now, I don't have any hearings scheduled for the next meeting, which is 26th.
So wait,
The
are
day
you,
before the potluck supper.
are you busy?
I don't know, I might be
You're gonna
busy
be
cooking.
starving.
Making your casserole.
But I would have to
Doing a
see if,
casserole.
like Jim and Keith or Anthony or town council is available. So what I could do is let's look at like the next 2 meeting dates and let me send something out to them and see what their availability is and see if I can get a night that,
Yeah, that'd be good.
because the
That's a
other
good
thing we
idea.
could do is, do that at 7 and I just don't make any public hearings till 8 or whatever, you know, if
So-
anything comes up.
If something pops up,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I can't make it earlier than 7 on a Tuesday, but another night, you know, I just saw Anthony leaving when I was strolling in here, so maybe, since they're here all day, maybe having them come in at 5:30 and doing it on
Yeah,
another
that
night besides
works.
Tuesday.
If you guys
I-
are
I can do
available, then
5:30.
we can
With some
certainly do
notice,
that.
I'm
Can you do
flexible.
that?
Can you do other
5:30?
nights?
I can do
I
five.
can,
Can you?
yeah.
And just changing track probably a little bit, you talked about coordination with the other related boards. I'd like to see that happening with like we had the conservation, we had, you know, when
The-
the purchase of the land,
Yeah.
you know, is that gonna happen?
Yeah.
Would like to be, you know,
Then
I know you said it's in the works, but will everybody know that when you're
Like you're
gone?
talking about planning board.
So that would be Concom and then the building department, right? The building inspector.
Yeah, we don't really.
There's some other departments that are waiting for us, and is it mostly just Concom? That are waiting for us to
Well,
make a
it-
decision before they make a
When it
decision?
goes for a permit, what approvals do they have to do to give the final building permit?
All town, everybody, electrical, plumbing, gas, fire, health, conservation, like.
Board of Health typically
highway.
comes before conservation, though.
So it's not, maybe it's just
Then you have the
conservation.
Board of Appeal, you have a lot of different boards that might disagree with you guys, but that's something you
Zoning?
wanna do, go ahead.
We want to talk to zoning,
No,
It's planning.
zoning?
planning? Yeah, true. So maybe Concom, planning,
Well, just like,
and
find a
building.
way for them to communicate with us so that when they're saying, we're waiting for you,
Well, I'd like to know what their scope is and what our scope is, because, and that gets back to how the regulations read. Because the regulations actually do have an environmental component. And I've always been unclear about, I think we need to clarify and get on the same page if possible on what Concom's doing and what we're doing. Because we do have I mean, there is an environmental component to the decision-making, it's right in the rec. So, just understanding how wetlands are done. I mean, we had somebody come in with flags on his map and they didn't mean anything. So I felt a little uncomfortable with that along the way, and I know Concom has too, because they've told, a couple of people have told me. So it sounds like maybe Concom, planning and building? Does that sound right?
I'm not sure, I mean, I'll come for building, but I'm not
Oh, you're
sure why.
building?
Yeah.
Just because you guys give the last
Right.
approval.
So,
Just to be
everybody
complete.
needs to sign off before we give, like, final occupancy, but.
Yeah.
um,
Do we start with Concom and planning? I don't know, what do you guys think?
and Concom, start with Concom, because they're always the ones that are, we're always questioning, because that's wetlands. I know that we don't have any problem, but, they
Yeah,
always seem
because
to
we've
be
got
the-
so much conservation land in town, so.
Yeah. How would planning fit in? Planning?
I don't know what the big developments, would they have anything to do with
Yeah,
that?
it seems like we should, can we include planning? Planning, Concom, and us? Are you able to schedule that, Shelley, or is that something that?
Do you want
Is that
them to come to a meeting?
Well,
We can get on their
schedule-
agenda, too.
Yeah, we could schedule a joint meeting with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we could get on one of their
Yeah,
agendas.
it's easier to get on their meeting than for them to come to us.
That's what they're gonna say, come to
Yeah.
us, we're not coming to
Okay.
you.
So can you coordinate that, or do we need to do that?
When does Concom meet?
Thanks.
They meet on every other Monday night. Planning meets once a month. What was the other one?
That was it.
Plan, yeah.
But, so Ed Mullen is really interested in doing this, so I think he'll show up if we go to Concom, or we could go to planning.
Oh, he's on planning. Is he on Concom, too?
Nope, but we were gonna meet with Concom and planning at the same time.
Well, it's easier to go to planning's meeting and get on their
Yeah, right.
agenda,
And then go
just
to the-
us,
right.
with
Yeah,
our
but
issues.
that, then we're still stovepiped, if the three of us all
Might be
sit down
better,
at once.
probably easier to see if you can get on a conservation agenda and ask one or two planning board
Yeah,
members to
if-
come that same night.
If we do that,
because-
Ed might, I think he'll show up, because he
Yeah.
wants to do it.
Because planning only meets once a month, so their meetings are pretty heavily loaded.
So Concom's on Mondays.
Okay, so we're gonna get on the Concom agenda, and then we'll ask Ed Mullen in planning. So the agenda item would be joint session, Board of Health, Concom, planning for coordination session.
Mhm. Yeah, sounds good.
And then we'd have to make sure that somebody from planning can come that night. Mondays are Concom? I know we can't come
Mondays.
Okay.
So, I usually make these binders that have all this, Mass Association of Health Boards, and then Title V, and then all the local regulations in them. Do you want everything in print, or do you want just links to what these sites are, to access them online?
I think in print would be great.
I would prefer print. Sorry,
As long as
Shelley.
it's big. bigger than this.
I mean, it's,
Over 40 eyes print.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Title V. This is the state sanitary.
No, I meant
The
print.
font size.
Right.
Font.
Oh, the
Not
font
not the
size, yeah,
pages.
right.
Okay, so I'll do the binders in print. Now, as far as the packets, do you want printed copies of things
I
too,
don't
or do
need
you want
printed.
electronic?
I think Gino needs printed.
For the
right?
meetings?
Yeah.
I would just
You
use
always
my
forget to
phone.
give me some paper
I
there.
print out what you email us.
I
No, you don't
printed
like
it
it
out
anymore.
too, so. You don't,
Yeah, you don't have to print out.
So if you're printing it out, I'll print it from here, because there's no sense you wasting all
You're
your
gonna need to print for Gino. too.
printer
Okay.
ink, but,
I don't need one.
okay. So, do printed copies. And usually what I do for the meetings is I won't print all the plans, I send them to you so you can look at them online, but the engineers always have a full-size plan to look at, and, so I usually just print the letter that lists the variance, so when you're making the motions, you have that letter in front of you to read the variances, and then all the correspondence and stuff, so I'll do binders and printed copies. Okay. So as far as timeline for talking about these regulations, what do you want to do with that?
Can we take the next 2 weeks to sort of go over things and look at them, and then have a public hearing at our next meeting?
No.
No
Public hearing? I think we should have a
We
meeting.
need to have a discussion and then a
Yeah.
public hearing.
Yeah, so why don't we take it stepwise, where, why don't we look at them this week?
Right.
You can go over them now,
Yeah. a little
and
bit.
then people can digest them.
Let's do like a top line overview.
Yeah, and then the next meeting, we can decide whether we'll be ready in 2 weeks and whether we want to publish a public notice or not.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Sounds fine. So just top line, you know, we have these current regs in Littleton, and it came up during the course of the election and the campaign that, you know, 10, 11, 12 years ago, we had, you know, 33 local regulations that helped to protect the environment here. And sometime in 2011, the current board decided to repeal a number of those local regulations. And I don't think that did our environment much justice. I think we should take a look at what it was in 2007 and what it is currently, and propose some additions, adding some things back, adjusting some language, doing what we can to protect the environment and help the residents of Littleton at the same time. So I laid out a table. First column says, you know, what the regulation's called. Second column says what Title V actually says, and some of it was just so long that I couldn't paste it in here, so if you want to revert back to
Can
your
I,
binder.
on the first column, so that's the local, the Littleton
Littleton
regulation?
reg, yep,
Okay.
Regulation 3. So, you know, for example, Regulation 3, it called out what the town required for reserve area back in 2007, and then in 2007 it was repealed. So, you know, if you take a look at the next reg, it was repealed in 2011. And I have, you know, what was in the binders during those years. So if it's easier for people to sort of see it in this format, maybe I should make copies, and or Shelley can help us to do that, but
yeah, that font's much larger.
it's larger, and I highlighted.
Oh.
So that might help too.
Well, now that it's public information, you can just send it electronically too. You can read it, you know, with bigger print.
Hmm.
Right.
I can read it with my glasses.
Yeah, I can read it.
But I couldn't on my last night without my glasses.
Did you have a copy?
I think I do, but if you give me another one, if I want, I don't think.
Now, the proposed update, is that just something that you thought to
Oh,
do,
it's
or is that going
basically-
back to the original?
It's basically what this had said, less,
On all of them?
most of them, like some of them, like the perk rates, when you get there, it'll say, here are the perk rates for upgrades, and here
This
they
one?
are for
Yeah,
new
okay.
construction.
Could you go run down and then just, because what we'll have to do is come to an agreement on, you
On
know,
the
what we
verbiage.
want to put in that final column?
Right.
So could you just indicate for, just quickly for
Mm-hmm.
each of these, like what the pertinent issue is?
Right, so the reserve area Do you want me to do that for each regulation?
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, that's
That won't take too long, will
I
it?
don't think so. So the reserve area, in 2007, our local reg said that, a reserve area of at least equal capacity suitable for subsurface sewage disposal and upon which no permanent structures will be constructed must be provided for all sewage disposal systems. The reserve area must be at least 10 feet away from the primary leaching area. The area between the galleys, chambers, and trenches may not be used for part or all of the reserve area. The reserve area shall be accessible by gravity flow if the primary system is gravity fed. So if they can't go back with a pump system in the reserve area.
Well, but Title V requires the reserve area sufficient to replace primary soil absorption system, so what does the local do in addition to that?
It
Yeah, that's
says-
my question, is the hierarchy between
Yeah.
Title V.
Title V
Mass-
is the higher.
Title V
That's
is-
the one we
no,
have
Title-
to adhere to, and Littleton can
Make it stricter.
make it stricter.
Yeah. But it looks like under Title V for that one, you've got to replace with the primary soil absorption, sufficient to replace. And then, so the Littleton reg, how does that modify that?
It says the reserve area should be accessible by gravity flow.
Oh, okay.
If the primary system is gravity.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I get what you're saying now.
So what you're saying is it shouldn't be a total different system? The reserve has to be the same as the...
Same type of system, yeah.
Mhm.
That was approved.
Not like-
That was approved.
And it has to be 10 feet away from primary leaching area, which isn't in Title V, right?
Right.
Oh, okay.
So the next regulation, groundwater elevation, just states that the different months during which testing can be done for deep holes, so we can call out what really is high water table. And I basically copied and pasted this back in here from 2007, but called out for new construction as opposed to upgrades. It's pretty cut and dry. So the PERT test used to be a lot more, I guess, stringent. Then a number of sections were repealed in 2011. And so I'm basically taking what was put back in for 2011 with the 30 minutes an inch on a lot allowed for 30,000 square feet or less, and 40 minutes an inch for 30,000 square feet lot or more is allowed. And I just sort of called that out, so that would still be the case for upgrades, but for new construction, 30 minutes an inch, over 30 minutes an inch would be a fail. Distances, and I saw the regs in 1998, and the distances regulations that back then were so stringent, like you couldn't do anything. But I feel like what they had in 2007 was reasonable, just stating that no soil absorption system should be installed within 100 feet of wetlands, and all components of subsurface sewage disposal system should be at least 25 feet from a suction water supply line. I agree with the piece about the wetlands. I don't know that the sewage disposal system 25 feet from suction water supply line is relevant.
What's a suction water supply line? Is that the well, or
It's
is it?
the well, yeah. I don't even know if they allow those anymore. But,
It's a well, or is it the town water?
well.
Mhm.
Next one's system on same lot. An individual sewage disposal system and all connecting sewer lines shall be installed on the same lot as the facility discharging sewage into said system. That was just straight up repealed in 2011, and I think it makes sense to put it back in. So you can't pump to a different lot. You can't, discharge
Yeah.
your effluent to a different lot. Shared systems.
How do you define lot on that? If you own two adjacent lots, you can't use both of them? Like if you're in Long Lake and you buy an adjacent lot to expand your property and be able to fit a system, you wouldn't be able to do that?
If it's right next to you and you buy it, it merges for zoning, so it becomes the same lot.
I have 2 lots, and I don't think they're merged,
But are they next to each other?
yeah,
They're merged for zoning.
for zoning
Considered one lot.
purposes. So do we have to be specific here about how we define lot?
Do you get 2 tax bills?
Yeah.
One for the lot and one for the house.
Because the system doesn't know I own both. I mean, it does, but it doesn't.
Right, it's not talking to itself.
Yeah. So I think we better be careful about that one.
Okay, so we'll figure out the
Just
verbiage on
something
the
to think
lot.
about.
Yep.
Because we shouldn't discourage people from expanding their property to put a better septic system in.
Right,
Especially a long way.
on an upgrade too.
Yeah.
Shared system, so shared systems will only be approved if each individual lot proposed to use such system can support a subsurface sewage disposal system which can meet the requirements of Title V and local regulations without a variance. The area proposed which could support a subsurface sewage disposal system on each lot shall not be used for any other purpose. So if you if you're putting in a shared septic system, house is on the lot, you need to save that reserve area that the system was designed for in the back or front of the house, and you can't put a house there in front or in back or use it for anything else but a septic system. That'll, if that shared system ever were to fail and you had to go back and put individual systems in, I think that's the safety net there.
Oh, okay.
So, that I just basically put back in for 2000, for.
Who repealed all these? Was it, and was this
If you look at
our
the,
local
Was
board?
it 2007 board?
It was
or
2000, that was
2011?
2011, it was repealed.
Oh, right
These are the
there, repealed.
2013s, but I think I have a copy.
And why? I mean, was there a specific case that they needed to change it for, or?
No, I think it was just a different approach. Was
Just
it,
a
do you
different
know?
approach. Here were the board members.
Always be
at that
somebody
time. These are the
to appeal it.
2011 regs.
DEP, or they might get an attorney, they go into land courts.
Mhm.
You can make the regulations as many as you want. You're gonna always find somebody that's gonna go above you.
Mhm.
So you just do what you can, but you will find obstacle as you go along. And Davey means well, but the question is, it's too strict, and you're gonna have problem. I'm telling you right now. If the attorney gets involved because for some regulation that you're so stubborn not to give a variance or something,
Mhm.
you'll be in trouble.
Okay.
But the DEP will,
They'll ultimately say.
the EP will override all your regulation.
Mhm.
You remember that?
I will.
Okay. But you can do what you want, you can try it. We've been trying it for years to make improvement, but sometimes improvement doesn't work.
Let's see,
There's
so.
always good and bad with everything.
Yeah.
It's always good and bad, you're right. You have to
So-
try it,
Yeah.
Moving forward, the subdivision,
There's always somebody's gonna go above you,
some typos in here. sorry.
even a different board that we have here in Littleton.
When one or more lots are subdivided from a parcel of land with a structure
To another
discharging to a
board,
subsurface
they get
sewage
granted
disposal system, a plan showing
our
the location
regulation
for the septic tank
goes out of
leaching
the window.
system, well and leaching system expansion
happened
area must
before.
be submitted for existing structure
Yeah.
on the subdivided lot, the sewage disposal
See,
expansion
try-
area
try-
for the
try
existing
what you can.
structure, and that lot
You may get 2 out of
size
8.
is large
or
enough
something.
to permit a septic system repair or expansion. So if you're cutting off some land from a lot, then you just need to make sure if that septic system fails on that property, they can put one back in another section of that
Mhm.
lot. So don't take away too much land, basically. So it was changed in 2007. But I think the verbiage there makes much more sense to put back in what it said in 2000, before 2007. Definition of a bedroom,
He's got quite a few, I only got one.
it was really, really strict in 2007.
She got quite a few.
Title V is very thorough.
You only one page?
Yeah, but
I just know that the Board of Health here,
Good.
from time to time, has trouble
Is it one
really
or two
determining
pages?
how many bedrooms, is there a past
How many
septic permit
pages
on
you got?
file? What does public records
Three?
say?
4, 5,
Going
4?
back and forth.
I mean, you have,
So just adding in for existing systems and
Together.
upgrades, the local board will refer to past septic installation permits
Oh,
on
they
file
give
and
it-
refer
they
to
give it to
public
me too,
record
okay.
and assessor's data if no
File,
past septic
yeah,
permit is on
file.
file. I feel like that's basically what we're doing, but it's not said anywhere. So we might just want to put it in writing, make that our policy.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
For existing systems and upgrades, the local board, it's on number 13.
Oh, the definition of a bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, oh, but
So regulation 14, I don't think we need to touch that. The designs are very thorough and everything's where it needs to be.
On Regulation 13,
Yeah.
is there any way to tie the bedrooms not to the number of rooms, but to the square footage? Like, I'm thinking in terms of the, like, in Long Lake especially, where they take a two-bedroom cottage and then get a two-bedroom permit and then build a double the size house and say it's still two bedrooms.
I mean, this says that the definition of a bedroom for the purpose of sizing subsurface sewage disposal systems for new construction is as follows. Any room or enclosed addition with at least 70 square feet of floor area and a window, other than a kitchen, dining room, living room, bathroom, or hallway space, or any room that meets the definition of a bedroom in Title V.
But then you get into, I mean, I think we want to let people have offices, don't we?
Yeah.
So
So I think that, wasn't there something?
they're going to come in and say it's an office.
Wasn't there
One
something
room.
that?
Yeah.
Finished
Jim-
basement.
Wasn't there something that Jim was dealing with, Shelley, on the finished basements?
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
Yeah, there was a policy that you guys had
We're
looked
letting
at
them-
about a year ago and never finalized.
we're letting them finish the basements as long as that they don't
Deed
put.
restricting.
Are we deed restricted as a base?
So, yeah.
Deed
They
restricted-
don't put
deed restricted
And they can
bedrooms.
never be used as sleeping areas.
So additional room.
Would you, David, would you, let me tell you a
Kevin,
little story?
it's Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah.
I told you, David, because you're gonna be David for me. It was many, many years ago, I'll say maybe 25 years ago, a gentleman that was on the board, his name was Peter Castanero, he passed away. This guy here built 4 bedrooms, beautiful home, right? And he wanted to have like a family room in the cellar. I don't know if she knows or not. He made him fill up the cellar so he cannot do anything with gravel. That's how stubborn he was. And then, after many years, it was overturned. So they had to take all this stuff out of the cellar so he can have something for the kids.
Yeah, playroom.
And there was a gentleman just like you, trying to change all the regulation. So you're gonna find a lot of problems, you see.
No gravel in the
No
basement.
gravel.
Remember that.
Why can't you just make it a basement?
That's what,
Why do
because
they have
the
to
guy-
put gravel
Because the
in it?
guy says, no, we don't, because I know you're gonna put living quarters there, because your kid's gonna
But-
grow up, and happened only one time. Now after that, it never happened again, because the DP came and he says, you out of order, man.
Well,
Your
I-
regulation is out.
I would just ask the board to, on this Regulation 13, to think about some of the problems that we're having and let's come up with something that best addresses them. Like that, that,
Yeah, I mean,
the things that
offices,
are happening that
playrooms,
we
those
know
are
are
okay.
happening and we don't have any teeth to take care of it. And I think that getting the permit for the existing structure and then double or tripling the structure, or doubling usually. And then saying it's only got 2 bedrooms when you're marketing as a 3-bedroom. It's happening a lot.
Well, and then didn't we have a new town bylaw just get changed with the, about the apartments and things like that?
Accessory apartments.
Yeah. So we have to deal with that too. Add that to
Yeah.
discussion.
So I think this one's gonna take some thought.
And it always has. I mean, we're still haven't, like Shelley says, we haven't decided on what's the +1, 8 rooms,
Most
+1.
important thing is consistency, because
Yeah.
you're gonna find if you do it for one, people are gonna come in and expect the same for them, and you have to have a reason why you deny it for somebody and you allow it for somebody. So consistency is the most important thing. Decide what you're going with and be consistent with it. That's what's important.
And I found that sometimes on the board, members have different ideas about what we did in the past, so that it's hard to get consistency. And I was thinking about putting together
I know
a
you're talking about- yeah.
quick and dirty tracking sheet of what the issue is, and whether it was approved or not, if it, what the basis of the approval was, just very quick. So that we have that, and it could be searchable, or you could,
Be a great job for the new admin.
What?
I said that'll be a great job for the new admin.
Yeah. I don't think it'll take that long, and I think it would definitely help
No,
me.
the new admin, not.
Just because consistency is so important, and
And I think
sometimes we're not
you had-
consistent.
you had started talking, it was about a year ago, and then there was just a lot of other ongoing things that kind of got tabled about that, the cases that came before you where Jim couldn't sign it because it exceeded the room count, but that additional room of space, and there was, you couldn't come to a consensus on whether you wanted to agree to it on the existing houses or on additions, and it was when Brad was still on the board, and for those a finished basement or an addition that went over that room count, and so you were kind of trying to come up with a policy on what you would agree to, and there was, some of the board members were okay with it if it was in the existing footprint, but if it was an addition, they weren't okay with it, and so I think that's probably an important thing to go back and revisit, because that's a lot of what comes before you, those cases where Jim can't sign them and they come to you.
Mhm.
And, again, if you have a policy that you follow, everything is still a case-by-case basis, but if you sort of have some sort of policy that you're following, it's always helpful too. So I'll dig out that old wording
Yeah,
that
that'd be
was
awesome.
started. I mean, gosh, I remember I think it was Brad's last
You mean
meeting.
the cellar?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was,
well,
we
yeah.
were talking about, it was, we weren't necessarily calling it a basement thing, but it was that additional room.
It was finished, I think it was finished basements and offices in the basement and.
That's true, that goes on the space,
Yeah.
the number of rooms. Okay.
So regulation 18 in the column there, that's what it said back in 2007, and it was just repealed in 2013. And, I think until we figure out a acceptable way to deal with all that, we might want to,
How many more
Keep
years
that as
can
a-
we continue another time?
as a rule.
Almost done.
And then, it might be smart to have us have some language about the Board of Health agent inspecting existing non-municipally owned sewage treatment facilities to ensure they're in compliance,
I
and the
didn't
levels
think
are
that-
acceptable.
I can find the key, but that's the time I was looking at the- oh, I gotta go to the meeting.
Deep
Kevin,
observation
call-
holes,
call me.
basically just moving what
Call
it used to
me on the
say,
phone.
just
Do you
putting
know
that
you
back
coming?
in. Same thing with regulation 21, 23, 26, and then adding a new one, which would be 34, regarding the senior residential developments. And any housing unit constructed as a part of the senior residential development should be considered new construction and be served by an on-site sewage disposal system with a gallons per day rate of no more than and no less than 110 gallons per day for one-bedroom units, and no more and no less than 150 gallons per day for two-bedroom units, and be age-restricted to ensure all occupants are over 55.
What is it now?
There's no restriction on it.
No state restriction either, or mess?
This is what Title V says for senior housing.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
For the two-bedroom?
Well, there's a one-bedroom restriction and a two-bedroom. Well, the rates,
Yeah, that's just what Title V says.
yeah.
So I just want to be clear about that.
So Title V is 110 GPD for
For over 55.
But-
For one bedroom.
what? But over 55 doesn't necessarily house somebody who's over 55. All it means is that it's outfitted differently.
No, the owner has to be 55. They don't have to have,
Yeah, but it doesn't, like the over 55 housing that
The bylaw that we
Field is going to be putting in, it's going to be designed, it's going to have like railings and things like that, and wide doorways to design for age in place, and it's over 55, but you don't have to be over 55 to buy it.
really?
Yep.
Then why is it over 55?
Because they get a
Makes
you
sense.
get it exempt from permitting requirements. So I think we have to be really careful with
Yeah.
this, because just because it says over 55
Mhm.
doesn't mean somebody's gonna be over 55 living there. And I assume that that flow rate is based on
Over
somebody
55.
who's over 55.
That's why it should be age restricted.
Right. It should be age restricted. But the head of the planning board said that they didn't want to discourage developers.
So that's all I got.
I went to a planning meeting last week.
Okay, good.
Appreciate your work on
Yeah,
that.
no problem.
Yeah,
It
thank you
works
so
out.
much.
The question is, in few more years, the sewer street will come into play, and then somebody will come in front of us. We can't say anything, because they say, okay, you give me so much trouble, I have the pipe coming through my street, I'm gonna connect it, it's gonna cost me $15,000. And they say, well, the board is no more in existence, because we don't need you no more. That's what the town's gonna
No,
say.
our job is to protect the environment.
I know, but then you can argue when the sewage treatment comes to play, you can argue with the state.
Also, the sewer is gonna only be in a small center, a small
It's
area
gonna be
of
on a
town.
common, but it's gonna
Small area of town.
eventually, in years they come by. it's
Nobody's gonna pay for it, so.
Yeah,
You.
no one wants to pay that.
Yes, sir, you guys, because that's why I ran for selection.
Nobody will
You
agree
guys
to
gonna pay for it, because you didn't listen. So,
Okay,
Kevin?
so we've gone through the agenda.
We can't go for a drink tonight, my barn is open and I lost my key, I have to find it. I'm using my protective key for my car.
Does anybody have anything else for the
I don't know
agenda?
what
There's
it
just
is.
one more thing,
I'll go next time.
Do we have to vote on that $400?
no, we already did that.
Oh, yeah, right.
Just for accounts payable, I just need to have a motion that, the chair can sign the accounts payable bills instead of the whole board, and in the absence of the chair, the vice chair. So I just need a motion for that. That's just
I
like the
motion
bills
to
that come up.
allow that to happen.
Second?
For what Shelley said?
Anybody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so just to
Okay.
recap, Shelley, you're gonna get us try to put on our schedule a meeting with Jim Gareffi, present, the new administrative assistant, if they're there, either Keith or Anthony, and possibly town council. Right? Okay. And then you're going to get us on the agenda for Concom, and then we're going to ask the planning board to also attend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
And so what are you thinking as far as, so the next meeting is June 26th. Do you all want to look at those regulations, and I'll send you out the current copy and the copies that Kevin referred to of all those regulations, and then, I think if everybody
Can
either
you
marks
print
up.
it for me when I?
Yeah.
okay. And then call me on a paper mark.
And then I think you should have a time that you discuss it and then sort of compile it all into one and decide on a date for a public hearing. So do you want that on the June 26th agenda or the July 10th agenda?
I think the
Think
June
July would be better.
26th.
Yeah, 26 is good.
I think we'll
To
do
discuss it.
To
Yep.
discuss it,
Yeah.
to discuss and set a date for the public hearing. And I'll ask Jim what his
If we're
availability
ready.
is.
I think we have to
Yeah.
go through it, make
Yeah.
sure we're ready.
Yep.
Right.
June 26th discussion.
Why?
Greg.
Ooh.
Changes.
I was there twice already. This year. But they can't get it all over. So they
Oh,
might-
it's kidney stones?
Yeah,
Ooh.
we're gonna find out the 19.
Those are
when
painful,
The
right?
X-ray. I didn't have any pain at all.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's just a procedure they have to go through. And I'm not taking any drugs,
No drugs? Good for you.
nothing.
Oh, it's for you.
Strong
Oh,
like
we
a
need
bull.
somebody to,
What's the motion to?
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Anybody second?
that.
All in favor?
In favor?
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
All opposed?
Hi, guy. Have a nice rest.